I talk a lot about mental health because that's been something that I've struggled with since I was 6, and my entire life I've never really known or had a figure that has made me feel like I'm understood and not alone when it comes to things like that. And I feel like, fortunately, now it's not as taboo as it's always been, but I feel like for the past almost 2 years now, anorexia has been one of my biggest mental health struggles. And I have made a song about it before, but I made that song when I was recovered at the time, so I wasn't dealing with it as hard. But an eating disorder is something that's very personal and very hard to even articulate yourself because it takes over your mind and it's very different for everyone else. And sometimes I shy away from talking about it because I'm either embarrassed or I don't want to admit that I'm struggling at the time because it's a very toxic disorder, or it's very hard to talk about it and not be triggering to others, which gets difficult. And I still deal with it pretty bad to this day. I've been in talks about, getting treatment and hopefully seeing someone and finally getting help, because as much as I try to take time to focus on mental health when you really need intensive treatment for something and, to go away for 3 weeks, it's not that easy when you're trying to write an album, and tour. Dealing with it on the road, though, was pretty hard. So being alone, I feel like it's hard to struggle with anorexia, but it's easier because I'm alone and I don't have to, deal with anyone around me or any triggers and things like that. But being on tour, constantly being around a group of people where it is normal for people to eat, that's a thing that has to be done, in order to live. So to be around people that are actually that don't struggle with it and are taking care of their bodies and that don't have to deal with body image, and then me also having to get on stage in front of people every night where it's like people are there to see me. Not only like the people that come to my shows, but everyone else gets to see them because people post videos. There's pictures and videos taken at every angle. And no matter how much I feel safe and at home on stage, performing my songs and being with everyone that relates to them, in the back of my head, when I'm struggling with my anorexia, all I can think about is how insecure I am and how I might look and what people might say or think. And I've had a lot of pretty dark breakdown moments before stage where I couldn't even see how I could get on because I couldn't even figure out what to wear, that would make me feel comfortable. And when you're on the road for how many weeks or months, you don't have a huge option to, to wear whatever you want. Like your stage outfits are your stage outfits. The biggest struggle, I think, is just the physicality part of it. Scientifically, to be able to get on stage and have the energy to perform for, over an hour every night, you have to have energy, and energy comes with eating and food. And that was something that I struggled with because touring and, my music and all this is so important to me. And it's really hard to not let my eating disorder get in the way of that. And so I would have to, no matter how hard it was, but try and sit as however long it takes me and force myself to eat. That way I could, get up on stage the next night without being too tired or, God forbid, passing out and, not having the energy that they came for, because that's what it's important. And mentally too, it's like when I'm at a really low point and struggling and not eating for a while, I'm not my best self, I'm not giving off that energy that makes people feel good around me. And I think that's kind of the saddest part about it. I want to be my best self always. And so it's hard trying to find a balance, and figuring out ways to help you, but also not make things harder, because the recovery process with anorexia is probably the hardest thing that I've ever dealt with my entire life. Like, I've been through intensive trauma therapy with hypno for my BPD, but just trying to figure out how to have a comfortable relationship with food itself is something that has been one of the hardest and scariest things that I've ever done my entire 20 years of living, which is hard to also do that, during this time of my life.